before I work any more Romanian couching down this branch, I'm going to need to work the reverse chain stitch on these little curly bits here, these tendrils. So I've just cast on and I'm just going to get that out of the way, the tail. So if I look at these pieces here, the reverse chain stitch is pretty straightforward, and I'll just show you the basic rules of it. I'll snip this out later. So I come up, go down in the same hole, hold the loop away, so upwards, and then bring your needle up through, take that and couch it down. So that is a lazy daisy stitch, dead easy. Then you come up below that, so it's the same length of stitch as you've just put in. Come up below that and just getting my return to the right length here, and then push your needle by I put my second finger underneath where that first lazy daisy is. I push that up a little bit proud, and then take your needle and just scrape your linen with the eye of the needle. So you just push it along, bumpity bump, pull it through and go down. So that's all you do. I'll just put another stitch in, up, reverse your needle, push your needle through and go down. Now, before I run out of wool, I'm going to hop across to the beginning of that little tendril here. Now to do that, I'm just going to put in a seeding stitch every centimetre or so, ½ inch or so, as I walk towards it. Now I know that the brown is going to go over the top of that, so I'm not worried about putting a seeding stitch in there. I know I'm going to stitch over this with the same colour, so I'm just going to pop a little tiny seeding stitch in on the actual tendril. So I'm walking the thread across to where I want it, which is the beginning of here. So there we go. Get the plastic out of the way. Right, so I come down from the very beginning. Now this is a very tight corner, so I'm just going to do very small stitches. So I come up about 1/8 of an inch from the top, and then the top of the line, and then go down in the same hole. Hold your loop towards the top of the line, then bring your needle through the top of the line, and then pull your thread towards and away from the top of the line and couch that down. So that's the lazy daisy stitch that's in a larger version here. Then come another 1/8 of an inch round that tendril, coming up through the line further down. Then, as before, just take your needle, reverse your needle, and just push that linen up from behind and just take your needle underneath. Now the reason we reverse the needle is so that you don't pierce the work you've already done, because obviously the wool is quite soft and you want to get a nice looking stitch. So through the loop and down, and then the next one another 1/8 of an inch further down, and it is quite tricky at this stage, a bit fiddly, and then push your needle through that last stitch and down, and you just gently tension it and always come up and then bring your needle from the inside of that curl to the outside, because obviously if I pushed it this way I'd just bump into everything I've done. Now I'm through that one and then down, and then as the curl eases and the angle becomes less, you can make slightly bigger stitches, and I'm all for that. You can change the size of your stitches as you work down a tendril, and you can do that in crewel stem stitch, in quite a lot of these stitches. And I never do any sort of chain stitch any other way, because I don't see chain stitch worked in any other way but reverse chain stitch in wool in the 20th century backwards. Actually, I think it's working it like a lot of little horseshoes is never going to work for me. It's much more difficult, and this just gives a lovely teardrop shape to every stitch, which I find very pleasing. So as you see, it's getting slightly bigger. I'm a little near the edge of my frame here, so perhaps I would remount it in an ideal world, but it's just for a minute, and I'm going around that corner. And I just see that that little bit of wool hasn't tensioned properly there. But, you know, I can go back with a magic stitch in a minute and sort that out if I really want to. But if you look at the antique pieces, nobody ever bothered with that. So I'm just going to come back here and I'm just going to tuck that in a little bit. Let's see what I can do for that. You can always have a little cheat. Yes, that looks a lot better. But as I say, nobody's going to mind. And it was very refreshing to see Katie have that sort of attitude already. She's only been stitching for 5 months and she's already thinking, well, if I don't notice it, I'll not bother fixing it. I'll just move on and then come back to it later. So I've run out of thread now and I'm just going to walk back along here and just put in 2 or 3 little seeding stitches, which will be hidden when I've worked some more. So as usual, a couple of little seeding stitches, come out the top and snip that off. And then when I cast on with more thread, I'll be casting on down here, walking my thread across again. So I'll put a little tiny seeding stitch there and another one here perhaps. And then I'll stitch down here and then just run over the work I've done and come round again, run over and get slightly longer with the stitches and come down to here. And then the next tendril, I'll just work from the top in exactly the same way. And that will end up with that. So this is the area I've just done. And I've worked down around the corner again, over the top of the work I've done down to here. And then start again at the top of this one. And again, just a continuous reverse chain all the way down to the Romanian couching on the main branch. You can see this cushion's been really well used and people often ask me about cleaning them, but honestly I've never cleaned any of my cushions, so I'm completely the wrong person to ask. But you would normally, if you really want to, take it apart and block it and then remake it again. But I rather like these little marks of age and children that have been to my house, or perhaps it was me with a stray biro making that mark. But it doesn't worry me at all. It's lovely to have it looking fabulous at the beginning, but it's even more fabulous to use it in your home.